The last time I talked about Star Wars movies that took place before the original trilogies, it didn't go so well. So let's all have our fingers crossed for this one. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, Rogue One, a Star Wars story is an anthology movie. It's a movie that takes place in the galaxy far, far away before the original trilogy. Essentially, this movie tells the story of the opening crawl of A New Hope, or Star Wars as I like to call it. Yeah, it tells the story of how the rebels got their hands on the plans of the Death Star. Therefore, it is sort of a prequel, and I know throwing that word around Star Wars just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But yeah, it's also a spin-off, because this movie first and foremost is a war epic. This is not a space opera. The focus are not the Jedi, not the Sith. This is a war movie, and people really need to know that, because I already feel like people will judge this movie unfairly, expecting certain things to happen that this movie did not set out to do. But I'm getting ahead of myself. And yeah, this video does not contain spoilers, don't worry. I will do a spoiler talk video maybe next week, but this video completely spoiler free. Every detail that I will address has already been revealed in the trailers, so bear with me. So the movie tells the story of Jyn Ursa, and as we already saw in the trailer, due to her family lineage, she gets recruited by the Rebel Alliance in order to gather intelligence on the latest weapon that the Empire is developing. And we of course know it's the Death Star. So due to a set of circumstances, she and a ragtag group of rebels actually set out to get their hands on these plans. And as I said, going into this movie, I was nervous, I was curious, and I didn't really know what to think, because yeah, this movie does not tie into the Skywalker lineage. This is not a movie about Luke, about Leia, about Obi-Wan, about Anakin, about Vader, even though Vader is in the movie. No, this is a war movie, really focusing on the rebels, how they operate, really focusing on the Empire, how they operate as a system. Therefore, it's a gritty, dark war epic. And I thought they did a fine job with that movie. First of all, Gareth Edwards directing this movie. This guy has always been great with scale. I mean, if you saw his Godzilla movie, you know that this guy can make gigantic things really feel humongous. And he does it here as well. The cinematography is amazing. The CGI, oh my god. I'm not a huge fan of CGI in general, especially if there's over-reliance on CGI. But this is some of the best CGI I have seen in my entire life. And the way the Death Star looks, the way Star Destroyers look, it's just gigantic. You feel the size of these things. You already saw it in the trailers. There are some AT-AT walkers. And you feel the size of these things. It's insane. But also, as I said, there is not an over-reliance on CGI. There are a lot of great sets, props, costumes, all the stuff that we know and love about the original Star Wars trilogy and The Force Awakens. And the action is fantastic. This is, as I said before, a straight up war movie. And the war aspects are just terrific. They are exciting as hell, they are dramatic when they need to be, and I loved every bit of it. But now let's get to our characters. First of all, Felicity Jones as Jyn Ursa. I really liked her in the film. When I first saw her in the trailer, I was like, I'm not sure about her. I mean, she seems so cocky, and not in a good way, but in a very annoying, bitchy way. Turns out, no, she was a really welcome addition to the Star Wars universe. Then we got the captain of this operation, played by Diego Luna. That is a guy that has dedicated his life to the Rebel Alliance. And what I really loved about this movie is you learn more about the Rebel Alliance. And even though they have always presented us as the good guys, yes, Rebels good guys, Empire bad guys, and that is still the case here, we get to see that sometimes the Rebel Alliance does some morally ambiguous shit. Sometimes their decisions are, yeah, fucked up, but it all serves a purpose. And it makes it a little more relatable, a little bit more realistic. and a little bit more gritty. And it definitely shows when it comes to his character. Then we got Buddy Rook, played by the guy who was the intern in Nightcrawler. I loved him. He's a defected Imperial pilot who now works for the rebels. I really liked him. There was a great sense of humanity and vulnerability when it came to his character. And we got this guy, I think his name was Baze Malbus. He's a complete badass. He's just mowing stormtroopers down left and right. Loved him. But now let's get to my two favorite characters of the entire movie. First of all, I'm not even trying to butcher his name, but the guy who was played by Donnie Yen, oh my god, not only is his character a complete badass with great action sequences, but his character actually added a lot to the Force mythology. And you really gotta give a movie credit for adding even more to a mythology that was created in 1977. But my favorite character, hands down, is actually the droid, K2SO. Oh my god. Not only is he the comedy relief, but he's also a badass. Alan Tudyk voices him and did an amazing job. I loved this droid. He was funny, he was witty, he was sometimes a bit of a dick, and I loved him. The first act is a little bit slow, and we're also introduced to Forrest Whitaker's character, who isn't a huge part of the movie, but it's nice to have a Clone Wars character in that film because it ties all of the Star Wars lore even tighter together, and I thought he was a welcome addition. And yes, there's definitely fan service that I will not spoil, but here and there are some appearances or things where Star Wars fans will just lose their shit and be happy to see it come to play. In terms of the atmosphere of this film and the overall feeling of this film, you can definitely tell that there are a lot of familiar aspects, especially when it comes to the Empire, especially when it comes to the Rebels. And as you already saw in the trailer, the base on Yavin 4, they rebuilt it and it really looks like it did in the original Star Wars. But at the same time, the overall focus is just so different. It's not your cookie cutter story. It's not whimsical. The fairy tale aspects are completely gone, and this may seem like a complaint. It's not, because this movie was supposed to be a war epic, and I think they pulled it off. At one point, it felt like the storming of the Normandy beach meets Star Wars, and it worked. Mads Mikkelsen in the movie, I liked him. I will not really go further into his character because I don't want to spoil anything, but Ben Mendelsohn is the main antagonist, and first time I saw the guy, I was like, holy shit, he's a great villain. He has a great menacing presence, and he may just be the very first major villain in the Star Wars universe that is not a Force user, that is therefore not physically intimidating, and that is not a fighter, but he's just an authority figure and therefore scary as shit. And he reminded me straight up of Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. Especially the introduction to his character was very reminiscent of Inglourious Basterds. Now, the one thing that people are really excited about is Darth Vader, because everyone saw glimpses of him in the trailer and thought, wow, Darth Vader is gonna be in the movie. And he is. But this is not a Darth Vader film. Darth Vader is in like 2 sequences, but these 2 sequences are terrific, amazing. I mean, Vader fans will just fall in love with these sequences. But you need to know that Vader is not in the foreground. This is not his movie. Also, people have constantly speculated, is there going to be a sequel to this? There is one. It's called Star Wars and it came out in 1977. But no, other than that, there will be no sequel to this. So what can I say? I'm really pleasantly surprised that they pulled off a war epic in the galaxy far, far away. They gave us something familiar, but they also gave us a lot of new elements. The moral ambiguity of the Rebel Alliance was handled very well. The new characters, even though they're not as fleshed out as our beloved characters, they are more than functional for a war movie, which this one definitely is. And the action sequences, the stakes, and the excitement is great. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, absolutely gets the gold medal. What can I say? Disney pulled off a dark and gritty war movie. And yeah, that's another thing that I may add. This is not a kid-friendly movie. For the very first time, this is not a kid-friendly movie. It's really dark, it's really gritty, and people should know that before going into this. But I loved every second of this film, despite the slow start. So Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you guys, as always, for watching. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.